Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell.
All right, it's time once again for Music Night at the Majestic, and with us tonight, one of our favorites here in the show, Mr. Bill Lloyd. Bill, welcome back.
Michael, it's great to be talking to you again. How are you?
Doing good. Always enjoy our conversations, Bill.
Me too.
And this time, you've got a project that is a little bit different for you, all instrumentals.
Yeah, I've done instrumentals before here and there. Foster Lloyd, our only Grammy nominated song, was an instrumental called Whoa that we did with Duane Eddy and Albert Lee and a lot of other folks, Rusty Young and all that. We had kind of this all-star band, and that was on our third album, and we got nominated for a country instrumental for the Grammys that year. But overall, I've done just a little handful of instrumentals on my own records, kind of stick them in there every so often. But I don't know. I just really wanted to do a whole record like that. So it's kind of a bucket list thing, kind of check that box and, something new, different.
Yeah. Well, you played most of the instruments on this, didn't you?
I did. And there's one track in particular where it's really obvious I did not play all the instruments. But for the most part, it's all me. But there's one track in particular called Miles Behind that is kind of a jazzy thing I wrote on piano. And it's kind of Vince Guaraldi, if you remember, who did the Peanuts music. Vince Guaraldi meets Miles Davis. And Miles had a record called Miles Ahead, so that's why it's called Miles Behind. And it's I played piano and electric guitar on it, but just about everything else on the track is a really talented guy named Jim Hoke, who lives here in Nashville, and he added woodwinds and percussion and bass and played a lot on it. So I have to give him major credit for that. But yeah, for the rest, most all the record is me, just overdubbing and having fun.
Yeah, well, you've worked it with Jim on your previous albums, haven't you?
Yes, I mean, yeah, we've done a lot of work together over the years. He plays with the long players all the time when we play, and I just think he's one of those great multi-instrumentalists. He plays everything really well, and he picked up steel guitar about 10, 15 years ago, and now has become an in-demand steel player. And in Nashville, that's saying something, and he played with NRBQ for a long time on the road, playing sax mostly there. So anyway, yeah, I have to give him a lot of credit for that one song, but otherwise, most all the tracks are just me kind of in the studio layering and overdubbing.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, Steve Boyle, who you worked with quite a bit on videos and
a very long
little
time.
film.
Yes.
Yeah, for that. And it was funny, Bill, because when I first listened to it, I didn't watch it. I listened. And I had this, thought, man, this has got like a cool 50s jazz noir vibe to it. And then you shared about Steve having made the film for it. It's like, wow, this is uncanny. This is exactly what I pictured.
You picked it up. You picked up on it right away. And yeah, he loves the film noir stuff. And he did the video for my Look Into It song as well. And there are certain parallels between those videos, but he really went with the film noir kind of vibe on this one. But it's got a real sense of humor to it as well. And so I don't know if you can play videos on your show or not, but if you wanted to share that would be awesome. But
yeah, no, it's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So
and that track is sort of an anomaly. There's some different styles of music on that record. There's like some like that's kind of jazzy, and there's some sort of samba, kind of jazzy samba pieces, but there's also really Ventures, Duane Eddy kind of twangola stuff. There's atmospheric stuff. Just it kind of runs the gamut of styles, just trying to keep myself from getting too bored,
Well, the opening track, Senior Discount, has got kind of a Ventures covering the Tijuana brass vibe to it, and then
Thank
Cinco de
you.
Bismarck
I
is definitely.
loved I loved the Tijuana brass. Herb Alpert, God bless him, he's still alive and he's out there touring at his
Mhm.
age, which is great to see. Because he's in his mid 80s, I think now.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I loved those records as a kid.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I mean, every household was issued whipped cream and other delights.
yeah, and we all know what the young boys did with that cover.
It's
So
still a fan favorite.
yeah, they had private time with that cover. So
Dolores Erickson was the model
no
on that
kid,
cover.
you know her name. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I'm a big Herb Alpert aficionado. In fact, it was funny, Bill. Uh, the first time I talked to Waylon Jennings, yeah, uh, Waylon went into it, I think, with, okay, here's another interview I have to do.
yeah,
you know, and then I asked him, how did Herb come to sign him back in '62? And he told me later that he was surprised that I knew that Herb had done that.
yeah,
And but he said, he goes, he saw me as an El Martino type singer, and I wasn't having none of it. So
yeah.
he's like, yeah, he says, but Herb Alpert was one of the finest people to ever walk this earth. He
Oh,
says, but
that's
that
great.
just wasn't going to work.
Yeah, they weren't simpatico, but he knew a good guy when he saw one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that was actually the turning point, if you will, in the conversation with Wayland.
yeah,
It went from being, a very polite, informative, interview to a conversation. So
yeah. Did you ever hear his version of the Cajun classic Jolie
Jolie Blanc,
Blonde? Yeah,
yes,
I always thought that was really cool, and apparently Buddy Holly had something to do with that.
he produced that track, if I'm
Yeah,
not
okay, there
mistaken.
you go.
Yeah.
There it is.
So
But I got to meet Waylon a few times. Yeah, one time at the Bluebird Cafe, I was playing a songwriter in the Round Show with Beth Nielsen Chapman, Kimmy Rhodes, and Rodney Crowell. And Waylon was there that night and got called up. And I gave him my chair and I took an adjacent chair so I could still play guitar. And he was kind of freaked out because the Bluebird's a really tight room. You've probably seen it on the
mhm.
TV show Nashville, which is actually not the Bluebird. That's a perfect copy that was on a soundstage. In fact, Erica, who's the manager down there, looked for her purse behind the bar one night until she realized she wasn't, in, in, in the real deal. But anyway, but it's a really tight little room. And Waylon said, "What's everybody looking at?" And I remember Beth saying, "Well, you are Waylon Jennings." So, but I remember doing "Ain't Living Long Like This," which is one of Rodney's songs that
Right.
Waylon had done, and got to play a solo, and it was really just great. So yeah, you mentioned Waylon. I'm off on a story.
Yeah.
So,
Well, of course, the seventh track is "Took the Bridge to Lubbock." So you got a
oh,
nice
right.
transition there.
There is that. Yeah, that's kind of a country shuffle. Yeah, that's on there. A lot of these songs are really almost shorter than real songs.
Mhm.
Usually songs are 2.5, 3 minutes. And a lot of these are about a minute and a half or just under 2 minutes. So they're just kind of like in and out quick, and then on to the next thing. So it's talk about getting bored with myself, a lot of that plays out in the fact that so many of these songs are really sort of short, but there's enough of them on there to make a real record out of it. So
Yeah. Well, I have to say, Bill, you tricked me when I saw the title, "Took the Bridge to Lubbock." I thought you were going to have a Buddy Holly type thing,
oh
and when
no,
I listened to it, it's like I kept getting this Danny Gatton vibe.
oh, that's a compliment, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know, it's just where did the Brooklyn well, not Brooklyn Bridge, London Bridge ended up. It ended up in America. Didn't it end up somewhere?
like in Arizona or something.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember that story, and obviously I don't remember it very well, but but I do remember that story, and I thought, you know, when I was trying to name the track, I kind of went, oh well, you know, to sort of bring that other story to mind, I just said the bridge to Lubbock, because I don't even think I'm not sure if there's any water around there or not. It's pretty remote, Lubbock.
Yeah.
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 I've
Now,
been there for a Buddy Holly Fest years ago, and I think Radney and I played there as well back in the day.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? One of the tracks, I really like the rhythm pattern you've got it. It's on the corner of Dub and Brazil.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Dub refers to that kind of reggae, that sparse, echoey reggae kind of vibe, and the drum pattern, which is drum loops. Those are drum loops I'm using on a lot of that stuff. Sort of suggested like that, and then the Brazil part sort of has that samba kind of vibe too, which I love. But yeah, there's just sometimes it was just just create these things out of thin air and have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, I always have, people listen to stuff. It's like, you got to listen to this record. And on a friend of mine, I had to listen to Laurel Canyon Front Porch 1969. His take's like, man, this sounds like Bill wrote this with Tom Petty.
Well, that's I was thinking, when I called it that, I was thinking it was sort of like Stephen Stills and David Crosby, out on the front porch somewhere at Joni's house or whatever, just like kind of the guitars that were, they had that, it's like an open tuning on the bottom, open D. So anyway, it's just the titles are supposed to be evocative of what the vibe of the song is.
Yeah.
And
well, it's not like Tom wasn't influenced by Stephen and Manassas. And
big time.
The Byrds.
And of course, Tom produced Chris Hillman's last one. I think one of his last studio albums he did. So,
and he wanted to do another one too, but unfortunately, we're not going to get that.
Yeah, I'm really sorry he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah.
So, but what an amazing body of work, though.
Big time, and it's like, I think about the albums he was doing towards the end of his career, which weren't as celebrated, after the Wilburys, he had Wildflowers, which did real well. But then kind of after that, there was Echo and Highway Companion and, Hypnotic Eye. There was a bunch of really good records that kind of got ignored, I thought. And I think I would recommend anyone who's a Tom Petty fan to go back and seek out those records, and because they're treasures on there, and I think.
Well, was it Mojo that had The Last DJ?
What wasn't that the name of the album, or was that was that just the song?
I don't remember at the moment, but
I have to look myself.
Yeah, but that song, truly is just a great summation of the state of radio.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be sort of dedicated to L.A. DJ named Jim Ladd. I think they were friends and neighbors, and that's the story I heard anyway.
Yeah. So, but getting back to the album, you always have titles that I find humorous.
Well,
Chicken Strangler is one of those.
Yeah. It's got that kind of chicken picking kind of vibe, and I thought chicken, and then I always think of people on farms who have to cut the heads off of chickens and wring their necks, and like not a pleasant kind of
way
to start dinner. But people, that's the harsh reality that most of us don't have to face. We just go through the drive-through and get the nuggets, but some people have to do the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Senior Discount was sort of a jokey title too, uh,
Hmm.
because I have, well, my friend, you mentioned him earlier, Steve Boyle, he lives in my neighborhood, and so we'll go have lunch, and we're about the same age, and there was one restaurant in particular that honored a senior discount, and we sort of begrudgingly, say, yeah, we're over the age, so we were always asking for the senior discount, and finally one day I went, so, at this point I am Senior Discount, and and I thought, oh, can I write that into a song? You know, it's probably just a funny title, so that's what that was. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the opening of the song has this sort of dramatic Latin kind of feel before it goes into a real ventures kind of vibe. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, earlier when you said that you kind of cover all the bases, today's soundtrack truly covers all the bases. And
Thank you.
for me,
Thank you. That's got a lot of different sounds and vibes in it. That was a bunch of different little things I edited together and made into one long piece. So there's quite a few themes on there, and just the way I found a way to crossfade and edit it together in a way to make it one long piece, and it's fun to listen to that way. So it's not just track stop track stop. It really does flow.
yeah, well, for me, Bill, it reminded me of, my youth when you'd have yeah, on the stereo, you'd have a tuner with a knob and you would just, see the bar go down the station. And what today's soundtrack to me was like a re-imaging of, tuning through, and you'd hear a little bit of each, different, format. Yeah. And until you finally get to the end of the dial.
What would have been funny, which would be a good idea, maybe for another thing. Maybe you've given me a method here, but do another one like that, but have like the radio kind of static in between, where you hear a little bit of voices, a little bit of talk radio or something like
Yeah.
that, and then it goes into another song, and so it is like a turning of the dial. So
Hmm. Yeah. You
so
get
maybe
like,
maybe there's another thing on there.
yeah. See, maybe get clips from like WKRP and then some other, famous stations or legit stations.
Yeah, yeah,
Mix them all
and
in.
then wait to get sued. So
Well, tell you what, I think we hit most of the songs. Oh, you know what? The on Foxy Loopy, you're kind of channeling Hendrix there.
yeah, it's kind of I had this effect that sort of a wah wah that I wasn't controlling with my foot. It was just set on a set. I mean, it was on a setting that that I really liked. I mean, you can kind of adjust it. And I thought when I was playing guitar, I went, "Oh, that has that real Hendrix vibe." So I created that track based on that sound. And instead of Foxy Lady, and there's a big drum loop that's like going throughout it, and it's a Foxy Loopy.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it has a little bit of everything, like I said, on this thing. And you're naming all the right guitar players I wish I was. So yeah,
we all wish we all were.
yeah, yeah.
So, and
But
then
I mean, it does have a real variety to it. I'll say that.
yeah, well, in with Tommy's Hoedown, you got a bit of a bluegrass nod on there.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason I call it Tommy's Hoedown was because the chord progression to me is very Pete Townsend, the Who, and has a little bit of that suspended right hand change, like Pinball Wizard, and so some of that feels like a sort of a bluegrass meets the Who kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So
Good summation. So, well, tell me this, Bill. Is there anything else on Insta-Mentals besides where folks can find this and get this and enjoy listening to it?
Well, I can give you a little bit of background that I didn't talk about yet. Was that there are 4 tracks on there that are recent, and that's the opening track, Senor Discount, Miles Behind, which we talked about, a thing called Timepiece,
Hmm.
which is like I think track 3, and then the very final track on the album called Goodbye Moment. And all 4 of those were done within the last year or so. And then everything else on the record dates back to the early 2000s when I had a home studio and was working out of there. So there's a real, I'm glad it works as a whole because there is a real difference in years in terms of when things were recorded. So there are 4 songs on there that are recent and the rest are older. So that's kind of an interesting thing to me, that it kind of holds its ground despite the fact that things were recorded at different times.
Yeah, well, you know what? I actually skipped over. You mentioned the goodbye moment. I meant to tell you, uh, somebody else I had played it, and he's a fan of both yours and a guy that I know that you're friends with and have worked with. When he listened to Goodbye Moment, he said, "This sounds like something that Bill and Marshall Crenshaw worked up together."
Oh, nice. Well, I know
So
Marshall likes. I talked to him about the record, and he gave me some really nice compliments on the new record. So I
yeah,
just saw him about a week ago. He was in here playing here in Nashville, and his band was fantastic. He had a
yeah.
great band, and he's got a new record out too. So I would recommend to anybody. Um, my record is available as far as a CD goes at my website, which is billlloydmusic.net. And it's 4 L's in a row, BILLLLOYD music.net. And you can find CDs, you can find, reviews and bits of information and some old photos, history, kind of stuff. And then as far as streaming goes, it's on all the regular places. So yeah.
All right. Well, we got have had your website scrolling across throughout the
Oh,
episode,
there
so
it
folks
is.
can
And there
see
it
it
is. Yes, thank you.
and
Just now
go get
seeing that.
all your stuff.
Yeah, there's stuff to be had if you're interested. If you're interested, there it is.
See,
So
that's another album title for you. Stuff to be had.
stuff to be had. I got places to be and people. I got people to be. So yeah.
All right. Sounds good, Bill. Anything you want to add on Insta-Mentals or anything else in
Uh,
regard to it?
well, I speaking of instrumentals, I mentioned to you earlier that that Foster Lloyd track, "Whoa,"
Mhm.
that dates back to 1990. Just recently, I got to be part of a Dwayne Eddy tribute, and because Dwayne passed away this about 6 months ago, and 4 or 5 months ago, somewhere in there, and they organized a really nice thing out at the Opry House, and not the Ryman, but the other Opry House, and I got to be part of that program, and we did that show. I did that song, "Whoa," and so whenever the video comes out, which there was filmed and stuff, whenever that shows up somewhere, I hope to be still included in the video. I think I am, and but that was a really wonderful night. Peter Frampton was there, and all sorts of, and Albert Lee and Gary Talent, who played on the original record of that, played with me on my set too. So it was a really fantastic band. So
Yeah.
yeah,
What was the closing track to Version of the Truth, wasn't it?
yeah, that was a track on our third album,
Yeah.
and then there have been other little instrumentals I've had on other records. Uh, on the Boy King of Tokyo album, I had a Chet Atkins inspired guitar piece called Chet's Right Hand Man, and but it's just kind of few and far between. I don't do those a lot. So I appreciate you talking about the instrumentals record today.
Hey, not a problem at all.
Yeah.
I say you thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
So, all right. Well, on that note, Bill, we'll bring this one to a close. We've discussed, folks can find your music at billlloydmusic.net, and they can follow you on social media. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Goodbye, everybody.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.